Well, today's service is about how songs and how music, our favorite music, connects us to each other and tells a part of the larger story that we are a part of, how we are bound up together. And so I want to share a story with you about that. This is a story about a girl named Miriam. Now, Miriam was just about to start the fourth grade, and she was thrilled because fourth grade was the year at her school that all of the students got to learn to play an instrument and play in the school orchestra. Now, Miriam loved music, and so she was thrilled. And on the first day of school, she showed up extra early. She looked around the orchestra room, and she looked at all of the beautiful instruments, wondering which one that she would get to learn. There were giant bass drums, beautiful violins, shiny brass trumpets. She saw her teacher, Miss Berman, there, and she said, "Here I am. What instrument do you need me to play?" Said Miss Berman. "Miriam, right? I think I've got just the instrument for you." She disappeared into her office and came out a moment later with a tambourine. "A tambourine," Miriam said. "Well, is that even an instrument?" "Well, of course," said Ms. Berman. "Every great orchestra needs a great tambourine player, and you are our tambourine player." Well, Miriam took the instrument, but for the whole rehearsal, all day long, she ended up just playing the same rhythm over and over. It went like this. Dot, 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 dot. Can you all try that at home? Dot, 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 dot. She came back to school the next day for another day of rehearsals, but it was the same rhythm all day long. Dot, 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 dot. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the whole rest of the week, it was that same rhythm over and over and over. It went dot, 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 dot. Now you might guess Miriam was not any more excited about the tambourine at the end of the week than she had been at the beginning. So when she went to church with that Sunday with her family, she was feeling pretty sad about it. She sat down in her Sunday school class, and her teacher Mahesh noticed she was looking sad. He asked her about it, and she said, "Well, I was so excited to learn to play an instrument and play in the school orchestra, but well, I ended up with the tambourine, and I just play the same rhythm all week long. It goes dot, 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 dot." "The tambourine," Mahesh said. He said, "Did you know that where my family is from in South India, we call it a kanjira?" Can you all say kanjira? He said, "People spend their whole lives learning to master the kanjira. It's a beautiful and complex instrument, and it's so wonderful. Every sound you can make on the kanjira, you can also sing. And people sing out the rhythms of the kanjira. Takita-tum, kata-dingi, na-tum-tum, ta-tum." People write, they write whole books of poetry just made up of the rhythms of the kanjira. Where I come from, the tambourine is an instrument for creating poetry and, beauty in the world. "Poetry and beauty," Miriam said. Can you all say poetry and beauty at home? Well, that doesn't sound so bad. Well, Miriam was thinking about that after worship and all the adults were running around coffee hour. This is back when we had coffee hour together. But Miriam was sitting by herself thinking about the tambourine and about fourth grade, and a family friend of hers came and sat with her, Anna. Now, Anna had remembered. She said, "Wasn't this the week you were going to begin to play an instrument and start the fourth grade and play in the school orchestra?" "Well, yeah," Miriam said, but I ended up playing the tambourine, and I just play the same rhythm all week long. It goes dot, 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 dot." "The tambourine," Anna said. "Did you know that where my family is from in Brazil, we call it a pandeiro? Can you say pandeiro?" The pandeiro has been played for generations and generations in Brazil. It's a beautiful instrument, and in fact, she said, when my ancestors were brought to Brazil as enslaved people, they would play the pandeiro as a way of bringing their community together to sing and dance and take care of each other, even when times were so hard. And in fact, they would even use the music of the pandeiro to secretly practice martial arts, to protect themselves against the people that held them as slaves. Where I come from, the tambourine's an instrument for community and, for safety. "Safety and community," Miriam said. Can you all say safety and community at home? Well, that doesn't sound so bad, she thought. So the next day, Miriam went back to school, and she saw her teacher, Miss Berman, there, and she told her about the conjura and the pandero, about poetry and beauty and safety and community. But she said, I don't know what any of that has to do with me. I'm still playing the same rhythm all week long. It goes, da 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 da. Well, Miss Berman said, she said, Miriam, do you know where your name comes from? Well, of course, she said, from my parents. Well, that's right, said Miss Berman. She said, but do you know who Miriam was? She said, in your family's history, there's a story of the ancient Israelites fleeing slavery in Egypt at a very difficult time, but making their way on this long and dangerous but important journey towards freedom. And when they were on that journey, they threw a giant celebration, a big festival to celebrate that they were on their way to a better place. And it was a woman named Miriam with a tambourine who got that celebration started. Women like Miriam would play in ancient Israel and all over the ancient world. They would play the tambourine for weddings and festivals and celebrations. In your family's history, well, the tambourine was a way of celebrating freedom and love. Freedom and love, Miriam said. Can you all say freedom and love? Well, that sounds pretty good. So Miriam went on to learn some of the other instruments in the orchestra. She tried out the bass drum and the violin and played a little bit of the beautiful brass trumpets. But she always remembered this story of the tambourine and how people all around the world and all throughout history had taken even the simplest of instruments they had in their hands and found ways to use them to shape the world, to shape their community around them, to create poetry and beauty, safety and community, to celebrate the journey we're all trying to make towards freedom and love. And I think that's a little bit of what we do in our congregations all over this country, all over the world. When we gather together as Unitarian Universalists, we come together not just to remind each other of the values that are most important to us, but to think together and even challenge each other, to think of how we can use whatever instruments, whatever tools we have in our hands to shape our community and make this the kind of world that we want to live in together. So thank you for helping me with the story.